Welcome to the Financial Game Plan with Hannah. I am super excited to have you here with me today. I have a brand new guest. His name is David Jessee. We have not met yet. I actually found him on Facebook and he posted something about creative, like super creative financing on a mobile home park. I was intrigued. I don't know a lot about that. And on this podcast, we're here to learn. So, David, welcome to the Financial Game Plan with Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, David, I want to know about you. I want to know your background. How did you get into real estate? Do you have a W 2? How did you find this creative financing? Just tell me everything about you.
Okay, so I've been unemployable for over 20 years. I started my first business many, many years ago. I own a tattoo parlor in Charlotte, North Carolina for the past 15 year. I was a career tattooer. I had no financial literacy whatsoever. Lower middle class family, rural South Carolina. I had no real business getting into real estate. It just kind of, I don't want to say it happened to me. I definitely started knocking on that door. Real estate popped up in my searches, and that's just what initially sparked my interest in real estate, specifically as an investment as opposed to stocks, futures, cryptocurrency, or any of those other things. So it just kind of happened to me about 5, 6 years ago. I went full time real estate about 3 years ago. Haven't looked back.
That is exceptional. I love that you say that you're from the rural part of South Carolina. My dad is actually from Aiken, South Carolina, so I do have some family roots there. So I think that's really cool. The fact that you were able to take yourself, knowing that you came from the lower middle class family, and you're like, okay, I want to do a little bit more, is really great. How did you get into this mobile home park that you were telling me about before we started recording?
At some point I decided to go into multifamily and mobile home parks. So
Okay.
I was in single family. I was doing flips, burrs, which is just buy, rehab, refinance, building a portfolio slowly with a partner of mine, a business partner of mine, and then had the realization about 2 years ago, there's retirement's going to be dismal for me. It's going to take me so long to scale this thing up. Rates started going bananas, and we were holding like 8 properties that we were waiting to flip, waiting on contractors to get to, when the market didn't crash, but it just like everything changed. It seemed like in a month, for the flip business. Instead of being on that hamster wheel of doing another deal, have to do another deal to have any income, I was like, I have to own some units to really have a cash flow that can build up. So I'd made the decision to go into multifamily, and then I further niched down into mobile home parks based on the premise, affordable housing is a problem that's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I don't think it will be getting any better anytime soon. So based on that premise, I know if I can rent units out at 600, 700, 8, 9, 1,000, they are going to stay occupied. The standards of someone that pays 800 a month is not the same as somebody that pays 1,600 a month. So a little bit less work to maintain that cash flow. And then another concept was being able to value add a mobile home park per unit may cost the same as a value add on an apartment building, but my cost basis per unit is lower on a mobile home park than the cost basis on an apartment building. So I can get the same amount of value add per unit for less squeeze in the upfront acquisition side. Basically why I got into mobile home parks at force.
It makes sense. The affordable housing thing you talked about is an absolute real concern we have in our country, and especially the way that interest rates are moving. And what is it, the Gen Zs now, or Gen Xers, whatever they are, they're struggling to be able to purchase a home. There's a lot of talk out there that says home ownership is going to be extremely hard to get as time goes, and renting it's a great option. People don't like it because they want to own the house, but renting established, you literally can stop, drop, and move whenever you want to. I think that's great. You talked about the prices being lower per unit, which I agree with 100%. If you found an apartment complex as opposed to a mobile home park, would you purchase one? or do you like sticking with that niche?
I'm absolutely open to purchasing multifamily of all sorts in particular markets. So I would buy 100 unit, or my team would buy 100 unit, if it made sense. What I've been seeing over the past year or 2 years of underwriting multifamily, the sellers are still kind of holding on
Hmm.
to the idea that, someone else sold for much more than what I'm being offered at this point, because the market has changed, interest rates have gone up, offers are coming down because the buildings are less affordable, they make less money, they don't cover the debt as easy, we can't pay as much. And I'm not the only investor that can't pay as much. Every single investor can't pay as much unless they're paying full cash from like a 1031, or for some other reason they don't mind having a 1% return on their money or whatever that may be. So, the values are going down. Some sellers are starting to catch up with the concept, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to exit where I thought I was going to be able to exit. But for me, the reason I niched into mobile homes as well, another reason, not only are they're offered at a slightly higher cap rate to begin with. Okay, so they're a little bit more, there's more juice for the squeeze on a cash flow basis right off the bat, but they're harder to finance. And I knew if I could tackle the financing of a cash flowing asset that other people are having issues financing, if I could beat that part of the equation, then I could have a strategic advantage in the marketplace. And
Absolutely. How are you?
and
How
that's
are you doing that?
it started with calling brokers. So I'm finding people that are representing sellers, and, well, hey, what does your seller have debt on their property? Well, yeah, they got this note, they owe $1 million on it. I can get that banker's information for you. Yeah, let's do that. And you start talking to local banks. Oh, we know that park. I remember, this guy who built that park. We financed that construction in the 80s. And we love that asset. It's the nicest park in town. We would give you 80% on that. We'd probably do it at 7%, versus 8% or 9% somewhere else. 80% leverage over 70 or 60% leverage. So, you know, you start finding lenders and loan officers that have connections that can give you a little bit better rate, a better deal, and seeing what's in just finding it. It's somebody in the marketplace can do better than someone else. And when we just kind of hammered down to find products, loan debt products that will work with various strategies.
That's amazing. Okay, so I have several questions. One question is, in your area, can you create a mobile home park? I know in my area you cannot. You can only purchase existing ones. Is y'all's the same?
Mobile home parks are not outlawed to be built in the United States. They can be built.
Mhm.
It depends on the county and the zoning, and do they want a mobile home park in the area? In my county, where I do most of my business and where I used to reside for the majority of my life, they will not even allow you to bring in a mobile home into an existing park. Any home that gets,
How?
yeah, if a home gets torn down or removed, it cannot be replaced. You cannot bring one into the county
Wow.
where I do business, a lot of my single family business.
Hmm.
So it's very specific to your area. And the main reason why they haven't solved it, in my mind, in my opinion, the reason we still have an affordable housing crisis is because these individual local governments will not allow enough mobile home parks. They will not allow mobile home parks. They don't want them. They have a negative stigma, and they also don't collect enough property tax to justify the weight on the infrastructure, or at least that's their argument.
Always goes back to the government, doesn't it?
It does most of the time.
So another question I have is, you said you were talking to these brokers. This is something I feel like I talk about on every podcast, but I genuinely believe that real estate investing is a relationships business. You have to build a team. You have to have friends. You have to have people you can call to ask questions. How much do you rely on the relationships that you have built to further along your career?
It's a team sport. It
Hmm.
is very much so a team sport. Everyone in commercial multifamily knows it is a team sport. very few, individual
Mhm.
operators.
I agree wholeheartedly. I know that when we bought our apartment complex, it took a lot of people and the amount of people from all the different banking sections. It felt like I was getting a call every day, and it everything depended on the paperwork and the money you gave and the money you don't have and the money you're getting from someone else. It's very much it's a lot. But I do think it's important, especially the relationships. You have to be able to have people. People make this entire world go round. You cannot do it yourself. Are you managing your own stuff or do you outsource to third parties?
So we've been converting our single family portfolio over to third party management and selling off the portfolio just to open up our bandwidth on the multi.
Yeah.
So we have a couple units that are self-managed. I personally have a couple that, they text me, hey, I'm gonna Zelle you rent, Cash App you rent. I have a
Yeah.
couple of those. For the mobile home parks, we have a separate management company that one of my core partners is part of a property management company.
Okay.
And so we get a really fair rate on the management costs, but it's a full service management company, and they handle, the initial contact with the tenants and plumbers, or whoever. They do a lot of that stuff. If it's something that's major, then obviously it comes back to all the partners. We talk about potential fixes and we go from there. But everything is managed remotely. We don't have any local management. So we have, I forget how many units, but we have like 8 parks right now in 3 states. And the closest one to me, I think, is like 3 or 4 hours away.
How do you feel with having something so far? Like all of my stuff is in my parish or the next parish over. So for me, I'm trying to get over that little emotional hump of I got to get it out of my backyard. How did you do that? If you said some of your stuff was originally in your county and now you're looking at other states, how did you jump that barrier?
Well, for me, I started doing some remote wholesaling, and not really on purpose. I had some wholesalers reach out to me. They knew I was also buying and flipping and doing owner finance notes and all this other stuff. Started hitting me with these deals, and I'm like, I've never heard of this town. Where is this on the map? Okay, this is 3 hours away. Why is this price so good? I look and I'm like, it's a good deal out in the middle of who knows where. And I was like, I'm just going to do this deal virtually. And I paid somebody that lived like an hour and a half away in the next like big city that had a like an investors group. Found somebody to go cut the grass, change the door locks, put on the lockbox, clean the inside of the house, take all the photographs, and basically give me all of that stuff. And then I marketed it from my home, from my computer. Basically, I marketed the property, found my buyer, did the full deal, mail off closing and all that stuff. So I started getting comfortable with some wholesale deals virtually, especially with vacant properties and stuff. So I kind of got over the remote thing early on. But then when it comes to managing property, it's like, okay, well, what happens if they bust a major water leak? Well, what's the difference in you getting that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning and the property's at 40 minutes away from you, or if it's 4 hours away from you? It doesn't matter. You're not leaving your house at 4 in the morning. You're calling the plumber. So if you're calling a plumber at 4 in the morning, worst case scenario, why do you have to go? And when was the
Oh,
last
I'm a
time?
control freak. I'm a control freak, and we got to go. My husband and
Yeah.
I, we go. We check our properties constant. Our house is not so much because they're new construction. The people are paying me like $2,400 a month, so that the caliber of people is a little bit different. But my apartment complex, when the rents are like 975 average, I'm there a lot more. And when things happen, we show up. But it is something I'm working on, and that's a good piece of advice. Of if it breaks. Call the plumber, no matter what. I like that.
If you're talking about turning over a property that has like really bad tenants and you have all kinds of crime, and I'm not looking to buy those types of properties. I mean, we
Right.
do turn around mobile home parks, but you know if you're going to evict 25% of your park month one
Yeah.
anyway, like I don't need to be there. We're gonna take it to court via Zoom, and most Counties have they could do evictions court over Zoom. We're going to get everybody out. Then we're going to send, we're going to go and check the damage, and which we will make the trip. We'll make the 6 hour drive, call it a weekend. That's
Yeah.
6 7 hours is really my max. I want to drive. I'm not trying to fly out to property. So I mean, I can take a weekend, go out, walk 5 6 7 trailers, mobile homes, figure out the damage, come up with material costs, and figure out who I want to come fix the property, change some locks, whatever. And then we do have an on-site manager in every park, and the on-site
Okay.
manager is not really a property manager. It's almost like the complaint department. So
I love that.
if somebody has a complaint or an issue, or so and so's
Yeah.
dog is doing this at my house or whatever, the in-house manager fields all of that, tries to solve it, can't be solved, she shoots us an email, hey, this is this, here's the photos of that, John at lot 15 said this, and Sarah on lot 21 said this, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And then we take it from there. Individual complaints or small repair requests, they'll go straight to the in-house. Like we had one the other week. It was hey, the outlets on my living room wall stopped working. Okay, well, he told the in-park manager. She messaged us. We're like, hey, do you know an electrician? She's like, yeah, such and such. And we're like, call him. And 2 hours later, we had a quote. It was like $200 or $150 or something. Okay, cool. It was all done virtually. Didn't have to go there. Didn't even see the problem. But apparently it's fixed.
So
Yeah,
the environment we've been talking about, right? This market, we have a very different environment that we live in currently than we did, say, 2 years ago. Interest rates, property taxes, insurance, all those things. How has that impacted your purchasing power?
it has impacted the prices of properties. So that makes, and since the sellers are behind on dropping their price, it makes everything we look at less affordable. So how do we buy? What do we do? If this park was $1 million 5 years ago, they haven't raised the rent, but today they want, $2 million for it. How do we buy this? If we do a regular loan, maybe we need 20% down. Okay, so we need to come up with 400K to buy this on a regular loan.
How
You're
are
gonna
you, how are you raising capital? I know you said it's something you're doing. How are you doing that? Where are you finding your capital?
To be completely honest with you, I do not like raising capital.
It's
So
hard. It's hard to ask people for money.
so it's not hard for me and the groups of multifamily investors that I run with. I
Okay.
am constantly being bombarded. How do we get in one of your mobile home park deals? How do I get, can you bring the next one to the group? Do you need me to raise money? Hey, that's 2 hours from my house. I'll go manage it. And I'm constantly bombarded with people that want to get on the deals and want to raise money and want to bring capital to the deal. Here's the problem. If I can get in for zero down, I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily raising capital.
So the zero down, that's the creative financing aspect you were talking about. For all the listeners out there, can you explain what creative financing is and how to achieve it?
In a nutshell, creative finance is anything other than traditional finance that you can think of normally in your bank lending environment. Okay, so creative finance could be 10 guys pitching in $100,000 each to you so you could buy something for $1 million. That's one situation where you got that thing financed creatively from 10 guys that tossed you $100,000. Creative finance could be, I want to sell you my $1 million property. I don't even know what I would do with the money. I don't have any kids, or my kids are worthless. I'm not giving them anything. I don't know what to do. Okay, well, would you just consider $10,000 a month for the next 30 years? Creative finance could be, hey, how about I pay you the same price that you want, that no one else has been willing to pay, because it's impossible to finance with today's rate, having to bring 30% down. How about I give you this number that you are not getting because you have been on market for 125 days. I'll give you this number. Just let me give it to you over time.
Are you able to are you able to do that frequently? Is that
All the
something that
time.
really? So for
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so for things like that, does the property need to be paid off? Does that make things easier? Does it matter if it has a mortgage? Like, how does that
No,
work?
it does not matter. It does not matter whatsoever. So it's like I said, it's situational. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to say $1 million property and they have a $400,000 underlying note.
Okay.
Okay. So they say, oh, I would seller finance, but I need you to bring 500 down.
Okay.
Okay. So you need me to bring 500 down. That's more than the bank needs me to bring. So are you going to give me zero interest? Well, fine. Yeah, I'll give my price. You give me half down. I'll do zero interest since you're hitting my number. If you're going to bring that five, because I got to pay off my loan of four.
Right.
Well, in that situation, I've created a $500,000 note with the seller at 0% interest. If I had a 10% interest loan on the first 500,000 and a 0% interest loan on the second 500,000, I have a blended rate of 5% interest that I just used the time machine to purchase a park 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Does that
So is
make
it
sense?
weird if yeah, you're blowing my mind. I don't know a lot about creative financing. I went to a conference called Dealmaker Live this summer and we had guest speakers. Their names were Cody and Christian. They're all over Facebook. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And they are all about the creative financing. And I learned a lot from them, but it's still really hard for me because everything I've purchased has been through a bank, 20 to 30% down, coming out of my savings account. So it's crazy to know that there is a whole another world, the whole
Yes.
side of real estate, which again, hence back to the name game plan in my title of my podcast, because it's a whole nother game that I feel like I don't know the rules for. I don't know how to play this game, but
And
wow.
it's the rules are dictated in a hierarchy. So you have what's legal in America, you have real
Right.
estate laws,
Okay.
you have your state laws, and then you have your local laws, and you have different attorneys. So some attorneys might say, yeah, that's illegal, but we don't do that here. Well, why don't you do that here? Oh, we don't, it's just not, we don't want to do that. Okay, cool, not a problem. There is an attorney in your next closest metro area that does it. If it's not illegal, and my lender said that the verbiage is okay, and the broker of the seller says this works, and the broker in charge at his office says, yeah, this is cool, then why not buy property with no money down? But it's when creative finance is more than just no money down, because there's deals we get into where we have to put money down, but it might still be a fantastic deal. And that's where you get the cheat code. Once you're in this commercial space and you're raising capital and you can pull a quarter million or a half million or $1 million out of thin air to do a deal, they're willing to do that to get their 10% return on an apartment building. Well, what do you think they would pull out of their pocket if you got a 0% interest loan with a 10-year balloon on that same apartment building? You don't think they would pull that same 500 or a million or even more out, knowing
Yeah.
their return is going to be so much better? So a lot of times we craft these things and we look at it from different perspectives. Okay, we're gonna syndicate this deal, we're gonna raise this capital, and we're gonna bring whatever percentage down, and the seller's gonna do this as well with a second position or whatever the case may be, and we can get our monthly payment down. So you're going to use traditional financing on a lot of these deals, but you're not going to finance the entire purchase.
You're blowing my mind. I know I said that earlier, but like, wow, that's really fantastic. Can you do this, do you think, on say A class apartment buildings? Do you think that's
A class.
A class? Do you think that's workable
So
or do you think it kind of stays at a certain level?
so I don't want to, it's not going to be by price range and it's not going to be by level specifically, but when you talk about A class, that means this
Hmm.
was recently built probably.
Typically,
And
yes.
so the type of people that are building A class are typically syndicated groups.
Correct,
So
usually.
it's hard to get a consensus from a syndicated
Mm,
group on a seller finance term. Now, they may say, we are hosing this guy. Yeah, we'll carry some, right? So
hmm
you can get terms on any deal, yes, but your terms are going to be sweeter when you're working with an individual
hmm
or a husband, wife, spouse scenario, or a couple brothers or a couple sisters, and it's a small group of people that you talk to. So I would say, even though anything is possible and you could buy a Class A apartment building this way, you're more likely to buy a Class B, C, or D apartment building this way because it may just have one or two owners. The unit count may be the bigger deciding factor. A Class A quadruplex, one guy might own that, and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to work out whatever deal. But if you're buying this is the perfect stuff for like 20 to 50
Hmm.
unit middle America built in the 70s type properties, because individuals are retiring, they are cashing out, their notes are low, they might have notes, but they're probably not even on balloons,
Right.
so, or there's no note at all.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to hear this side of the real estate game because I don't know much about it. So I definitely appreciate you opening yourself up to this. It's been really, really cool listening to you. I will say that. So this is going towards the ending of our show, and I have three questions that I ask all my guests. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So my first one is, what is something on your bucket list that you would like to accomplish within the next year?
I would like to buy either a beach house or a mountain cabin as a second home, vacation home, Airbnb. Not solely to be an Airbnb investor, but for me to vacation in and then recoup some of the mortgage on when I'm not there. So over the next year, I'm going to find a really nice vacation property.
I like it. That's a great goal. Question two, what is a skill that you have always wanted to learn?
I'm really big on leveling up
Okay.
on many things. So I would say patience. I'm always
Mm.
trying to get better. It's not. I've had a lot of hobbies and I've picked up various skills and stuff like this, but a skill that I'd like to learn is it's more getting better at being a good person and just basic values, and trying to be more patient and be able to listen more instead of speaking so much. That's something I'm working on.
That is not a skill that I anticipated to hear you say. I was waiting for like, woodworking or making a boat or something, but that was cool. I've never had that answer. I love it. And my last question is, using the knowledge that you have now, if you could travel back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Buy Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
I would say buy Bitcoin. I know you don't know what it is. Buy all you can and don't lose it. The second thing I would say, if it was on the investing side, it would be, you know, don't wait for approval or the timing.
Mm.
Make a decision on what you want to do and go ham. Do not wait for the opportunities to open up for whatever it is you think you might want to do down the road. If you might be interested in 20 years from now, start it.
That's awesome. That was awesome. David, if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to work with you, if they have a mobile home park that they want to create a finance with you, how can people get in touch with you?
So my email is magnoliahomebuyers@gmail. It's really simple, magnoliahomebuyers@gmail. Or you can check one of my websites. I have a basic catch-all website. It's carolinacashflow.com.
Again, David, this has been wonderful. I genuinely appreciate all the time that you have spent with us, and I look forward to learning more about you as your journey progresses. And by the way, we're friends now, so I want to learn more. This is really, really cool. Thank you so much
Hey,
for
let's
your
do
time.
it. Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.